Hey guys, welcome back to the Jasmine Ortiz Show. You're here with Jasmine Ortiz and my lovely co-host, Jordi Polycarpe. This week is a very special episode. We're celebrating 14 weeks with you guys, so we're going to go back and recap a lot of the topics that we've talked about in previous episodes. But first, we want to play a fun little game. This is something we haven't really done yet on the show, but I definitely want to incorporate more. So, Jordi and I are going to play a little bit of Would You Rather and give you some
Exciting.
nice little answers and explanations on why we chose what we chose. So, first off, would you rather have more time or more money?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wish I had more time for things, but I actually think I would squander them away if I had more time. Like, I'm always like, I wish I had more hours in the day, but I think I'd still be on TikTok just for more hours. So money for sure, just to get to like invest in the things I want to. Yeah.
Money agreed, sure. Because I feel like having more money allows you to have more leisure time anyway. Mm-hmm. That's actually why the pianoforte became so popular when it was developed. Because the wealthy people had so much leisure time, they were finally able to learn instruments and art.
Crazy.
Hobbies. Yeah, something that we're rapidly moving away from, unfortunately. We need hobbies.
That's how I feel every time I watch Bridgerton. I'm just like, y'all are just like
watching it right
playing cricket, getting tea, courting, going to the modiste, and then going home. Like, they're just hanging out.
They're all living like stay-at-home girlfriend lives that we see on TikTok, but in the best sort of era. I don't know.
And just
definitely
like
not for women's rights, but yeah, for fashion.
For sure.
Oh my god. Oh, this one is interesting. Would you rather always say everything on your mind or never speak again?
Never speak again. Never speak
you
again.
Said that so
Never
quick.
Speak again. Because the way my mind is set up, everything on my mind, no, I would never speak again. Can I still sing if I never speak again? Really?
I was like, I would just say everything on my mind and take it or leave it. I mean, I basically say like 75% already. What's the harm in the 25? Like it's only like marginally worse. So
I don't. I feel like I, not on purpose, but some people have told me that when they get to know me better, I give the illusion of being very much an open book. But there are things I definitely do keep close to my chest and don't speak on. It's like I share a lot, but only about very specific things.
So it totally makes people
feel like they know me really well.
I would agree with that more recently. I would say when we first met, we were both a lot more open in general because we were probably a lot less jaded.
Just like 19 and la la la.
Like, yeah, and I do say like I try to hold my tongue a lot more when it comes to sharing personal details and information, because I just don't like conflating my personal life with professional situations most of the time. So unless I'm getting to know someone like very personally as a friend, I usually won't share those kind of details. Okay, so okay, this one's interesting. Would you rather live in Antarctica or the Sahara Desert?
Live?
Neither.
Which one am I more likely to die in?
Antarctica, probably.
Yeah.
Actually, but then both, really. Like, I mean, I'm assuming in Antarctica you would have the right clothing and stuff.
Yeah, but
can't get any, like, colder.
That'd be so miserable. Like, even if I was having a nice time, I'd still be in it. Unless I was, like, I don't know, doing some, like, really cool science research or something. But, like, I don't know. I think I picked the Sahara, honestly. As long as I can still find, like, access to water somewhere. Or a reserve. I know the Sahara is famously dry, but...
The only thing I can think about when I think about the desert is like those mirages that for some reason were in everything when we were a kid.
Yeah.
Why did every like fairy tale story have a
And a
mirage?
mirage.
I
don't
really
know.
thought that was going to be a bigger problem in my life, just like quicksand.
Mirages.
Yes.
Every time I've ever been like driving with my family and it's like hot on the road, you know when like you can like see the air coming off like cars, so it does that like weird wave thing.
Yes.
I thought that's what a mirage would look like far in the distance.
I mean, kind of, right? Is that
It'd
not
be like a Shake Shack or something.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Okay, this one's actually interesting. Would you rather spend the night in a luxury hotel room or camping surrounded by beautiful scenery?
Maybe hotel room, because I was gonna say maybe camping, but then I thought about it, and I think I'm too scared of camping because I've never been, and I'm like, that's where people get murdered.
I did start loving camping in college, like because I did a couple times in like Central Florida, and in the winter or spring of like Central Florida, beautiful, amazing, outstanding.
Okay.
I probably would choose the camping because I feel like it's a rarer, more involved experience, if that
That's
makes
fair.
sense. Like you can kind of just like pick up and go to a hotel if you have the means to do that. Camping is like maybe it's less expensive, but you have to really focus all your energy on like planning, preparing, getting a group together, going out to wherever you're going. And I think that whole process of it and the elimination of technology is what makes it special to me.
That's fair. That's a very wholesome answer. In my head, I'm just like, if there's a pool, like a deck, and room service, and
I mean,
a
girl, I
rain
love that
shower.
too. I love that.
I want to be
experience,
pampered.
too.
I deserve that.
I feel like for me, I just want to disconnect. Like I want to disconnect. I
fair.
want to go be in the woods and be feral for like 3 days and just be in a kayak. That's all I want.
I want to be in a hot tub.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go. Ooh, this one. This is interesting.
Oh.
Would you rather be proposed to in private or in front of family and friends? This is so controversial.
I think about this often, actually. I'm a lover. I'm a certified lover girl. No,
Yes.
I think I would want to be proposed to in front of friends and family, because I feel like, I mean, I like alone ones. I think they're really cute and pretty, but also I think if whoever was marrying me knows me really well, probably knows I'm gonna say yes, and would want my family to be there to witness it, because I'm like very big Caribbean family. Like I feel like everyone wants to be there for everything, so I feel like I'd rather do that, because I think it really creates a good experience.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like for me, I would probably want it in front of family and friends too, because I would want it to feel like a really big deal. And I would want them to put in a lot of effort, like to make it a spectacle. I do want like the flowers laid out, the balloons, the walkway, like the candles, whatever they can figure out and do in the moment. But
Yeah.
I want it to feel like there's a lot of thought and pre-planning in it, and that involves contacting the other people that you love in your life to also be there because they know it would matter to you.
Yes.
I do think that's like a huge green flag. If you know your partner has people in their life that they're really close to and want to see those moments, inviting them just shows how well you know the partner.
I agree.
I totally agree with that. Okay. Would you rather have an unlimited gift certificate to a restaurant or a clothing store?
Clothing store. Because I'm like, I don't need unlimited food of anything, because I feel like I just get the one thing from most places I go anyway. But I'm always running out of clothes, and I feel like I always end up getting things that I get a shirt and then wear it like twice a week, every week for like 6 months, and then I rip it to shreds. Yeah. So I feel like I'd rather get I'd rather get a gift card to a store for sure.
I feel like it depends on the context of the question. Is it a gift certificate to a specific restaurant or any restaurant or any clothing store? Because I feel like that's my one stipulation. If it's any restaurant, anytime, like just a restaurant, period, I have an unlimited gift certificate to like any restaurant, I'm taking the food. I am 1000% taking that food. Never have to cook again. Don't have to think about hiring a nutritionist, a chef. I'm just there. I'm out there eating good food every single day. That would make me so happy. But with the clothes, if I had to choose just one specific store, then I would definitely choose clothes, and then it would be something like high quality.
That's fair. Even if it wasn't one specific store, I think I'd still pick clothes, because then you could have anything from like Forever 21 to like Versace, like whenever you wanted. And
No, very
I'd
true.
want that.
I feel like I stress more about my inability sometimes to like pre-plan my meals, that I'd be like, oh, I can just go get food and not worry about it. Like, I think that would be cool.
Fair. That's fair.
Oh my gosh, this one's also like very Bridgerton coded.
Oh, really?
Would you rather be part of an arranged marriage or spend your life as a single person?
Can I divorce out of these?
Not the moment of silence.
No, because I think it's because I'm too optimistic that I'm like, okay, I think I could be single for the rest of my life and be fine. I wouldn't be happy, but like I'd figure it out. And I feel like women can be happy on their own. But part of me is like, maybe I would do the arranged marriage, but like, if I can divorce them later and then just be single, because
I feel like
or maybe we'd fall in love and that'd be really nice. But you never know. I'm honestly, I might do the arranged marriage just to see.
I think I would low-key do the arranged marriage too, just to take the gamble.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe
we're certified lover girls for real.
No, I think I'm just crazy, and maybe I could make myself fall in love with anybody if I try hard enough.
Crazy.
Sorry, that got dark.
I love that. Okay.
Everyone's got redeeming qualities.
Oh god. Okay.
Man. I hope it bite me later.
Okay. Would you wait? Which one was it that I was gonna do? Would you rather take an action-packed European vacation or spend 2 weeks at a Caribbean resort?
Oh, wait. Say that again?
Would you rather take an action-packed, like you're seeing every major site in Europe vacation, or have a 2-week stay at a Caribbean resort without leaving the resort, basically?
Action-packed.
Me too.
Because I feel like my family does a lot of like Caribbean vacations, and I love visiting different like Caribbean countries. But I feel like I haven't done the like. I've never been on vacation with people who were not family, and I feel like it'd be really fun to like be action packed and like full of activities and things like that with people my age. Because I feel like family, they're like, I'm tired, I just want room service. Da-da-da.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
But I love like going out and doing all this stuff. So yeah, I picked the first one.
I think we need to manifest
we should do that. Yeah,
we should do that. Yeah, because I absolutely agree with you. I
love an
itinerary. Have that like mid-20s like Euro adventure girls trip vibe. Like that needs to happen. We need our Mamma Mia moment, minus the kid.
Please.
But we need our little European summer. I feel like that's something you see a lot on social media, and I'm just like, when is it my turn?
Agree. We'll plan for next summer. I'm broke this summer.
Oh my gosh, we need to do next summer. I would love that. Absolutely love that. Oh, this one's random, but kind of relevant to Miami, funny enough. Would you rather own your own boat or your own plane?
Oh god. Which one's more like economically sound / environmentally sound?
A boat.
Yeah.
But a boat's less useful.
Yeah.
A boat is like
where am
basically
I going
just
in a
for
plane,
recreation.
Though?
Anywhere you want. What do you mean where are you going in a plane? We just talked about Europe. What do you mean? You're already forgetting the plan.
Okay, but like, I guess like the flight would be free, right? Because it's my plane. But then getting there, if I don't have money for Italy in general, well, I mean, you always figure it out.
Well,
okay,
I'm saying if this is a situation where, okay, the circumstances are you can afford the upkeep and maintenance of whatever vessel you choose to keep.
Okay, plane.
Yeah,
like, I love a boat, but I think I'd use a plane way more often.
I agree. Yeah, I would definitely do plane. Also, fun fact, I'm working towards my private pilot's license very, very slowly. Yeah. But I think a plane would be really cool. You can just pick up and go wherever you want. It's fun, and general aviation is something that I have more of an interest in now. Aviation. So I think it's very cool. Aviation. Definitely worthwhile. But I love boating. I love being on the water. So I would still want the opportunity to be on boats. But I'm assuming if I can own my own plane, I would definitely have the means to be on a boat every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Okay, I freaking loved this segment. This is so much fun. We need to do this again. Absolutely. So I have one more thing that I wanted to just throw out there because I think it's kind of funny. Technology pet peeves. The only thing I really want to discuss here is how annoying telephone prompts have become. Like when you're trying to call a pharmacy or something and they're like, welcome to XYZ. how may I help you? I am a robot. And they're like making you go through 6 different prompts to even get an option to maybe leave a voicemail that they might return in the next week. And you cannot speak to a physical person until they call you. Yeah, that happened to me actually this week. And it was so frustrating. Why can't we just pick up a phone and call a person anymore at the location? I'm not talking about like pharmacy corporate headquarters. I'm talking about the location down the street that has my medicine. Like, can we do that, please? Why did we have to change that?
It's awful. Especially I remember like I the number of like doctors I've seen in the past like year for my own stuff with like my nasal surgery and things like that. I like there's been so many things back to back where I have to be on the phone and then
Oh,
like I'll finally get a human and they'll be like, "Oh, no, you should be sent to that department, not this department." I'm like, "Well, your
oh.
telephone prompts brought me here." And then
And
they're
then
like,
you're
"Okay,
starting
I'll
all over
transfer
again.
you." And then they transfer you and then the person on the other end doesn't pick up.
Yeah, and then it's like, start over.
Yeah. And then they're like, leave
Yeah,
a voicemail. And then I do. And then they never get back to me. Healthcare system's messed
yeah.
up right now. Yeah, no,
That
it sucks.
absolutely happens all the time.
Oh,
And it's not
God.
just healthcare stuff, though. I find that with almost any company that you could call. Like, I remember you used to be able to call up a store. Like, sometimes I feel like Target would still answer, sometimes, it just depends. But you used
Mm,
to be able to call up a store's customer service and say, hey, do you have XYZ in stock? Because a lot of times the website won't be 100% accurate. It won't have like all the latest numbers. Their internal system will. So it's totally valid to want to know if something's in stock before you travel there to get it. But
hmm.
that's just not cool anymore. That's not allowed. It's
Yeah.
really, it's
I
interesting.
guess they tried to make it easier for us.
Oh
But
my
like,
gosh, whenever I'm on the phone with the freaking pharmacy and they ask me 10 times, do you want a link to download our convenient app so you don't have to be on the phone with us and make it 10 times easier? And then I'm thinking to myself, I have the app already and the app told me to call you guys. Like, please.
yeah, it
Anyway, enough
sucks.
ranting.
No, I,
I just had to put
it
that out there because
sucks.
if anyone else can relate, seriously, let me know because it's so
Everyone trying to
frustrating.
get their medication is like, please,
Oh,
please. Yeah, no.
all right, guys, we're going to move into a quick commercial break before our next segment. Hey, guys, welcome back into our next segment. This is where we begin our episode recap. So, we have 14 amazing weeks so far. This is our 14th. And we want to go through some of the topics we've discussed in previous episodes and really analyze and think about how they interact with each other, why they're important to the overall message and platform of this show, and also why each of those topics matter to us. So, we've talked about a lot of different things. Most recently, we talked about entrepreneurship and developing a concept into a tangible product, making your ideas come to reality. We've talked about value of music in society, wearing multiple hats as an independent artist or a creative, how to navigate the ever evolving music industry, even situational things like living in Los Angeles or implementing technology in art. There's so many elements that interact here. So, Jordi, what are some of your favorite topics that we've discussed so far?
Yeah. I I think I'm glad that overall, at least that all of the topics we've had are really intersectional, because I think they do have a really important role in being a creative. Like I think it's good that we hit like all the aspects. I mean, I'm sure there's more that we haven't talked about. But no, I think one of my favorites was the one that we did about the like LA art scene. And like I just really liked hearing that perspective because I think like the ways that art and music overlap, I feel like I don't get to hear about it a lot, or I don't know a ton of visual artists. I feel like most of my friends out here are like DJs, producers, and things like that. So I really enjoy hearing what that like landscape has kind of been like.
Mm-hmm.
um I think like I really liked our conversations with Aiden. I really liked our first couple conversations because I feel like we got like talking about like body image and mental health and being an independent artist and the ways that those kinds of identities overlap with being an artist, especially for me in particular. I just think that there's so many aspects of it that not every artist has to deal with, but at least kind of like getting into the nitty gritty of it. I'm glad that at least like we've been able to have these kinds of dialogues, and that now we can have the dialogues for other people to hear if it's something they want to engage with.
Yeah. I think it's been really enlightening for me to hear other people in our age group or in age groups slightly above us who have either been through it before or who are currently going through the process of figuring out where they fit into the world, basically,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this industry. Specifically, I think one of my favorite episodes has been about working towards motivation and discipline. I think that's been really interesting and important to discuss as a topic because
Mm-hmm.
so often uh, we see success stories, but we don't really know how the person got there. And a lot of what's at play behind the scenes is truly just putting your head down and doing the work. And it's not fun and it's not easy. And it feels emotionally and physically taxing a lot of the time. So I think addressing that reality head on, accepting it for what it is, and mapping out what you need to do to allow yourself to succeed is something really valuable to learn as an independent artist.
Very well put. Yeah, I think I'm it's been an interesting thing getting to hear from the guests in particular, because I feel like I've been surprised every time we've had conversations with people. Like there's always been information I didn't know, or like better looks into what they're kind of dealing with in their corner of the industry. I think like just the ways that we are able to discuss this in a way that feels productive and like honest and vulnerable some of the time, because I think everyone's had kind of like in like intersectionality between what they do and what they care about. And I feel like the second part is the most important because you can tell that all of the guests that we've had have kind of their own agendas and things like that. Like they got into what they're doing right now because they cared so much about it, or
Mm-hmm.
they cared so much about their community, or about the ways that what they do affects the world, or things like that. So it's just,
Yeah.
I'm glad that the, I don't know, a greater creative community is on that kind of wavelength. I would assume that they would be anyway, but it's really great to see like the light in their eyes when they talk about what they do and what they care about and why they love it so much.
Yeah.
Um, so I really love that.
Me too. One of the interviews that really felt like that was with Aiden Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Just hearing him talk about his experiences on the Lucasfilm Ranch, things he's learned on the job over the last 2 years, things he experienced while he was at UMiami with us, and then how he transitioned out of that time in his life. And hearing how excited he was talking about the nuances of, audio engineering, that was really endearing to me because you can see how passionate he is about it and how much, this experience that we all shared together at UMiami really shaped him
Mm-hmm.
to move forward into the space that he's in now. So I that's something that's been really unique and special with interviewing our former classmates and now our colleagues, because it's a short amount of time, 2 years, so
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel that far removed from the experience we all shared. But at the same time, a lot has happened and a lot has changed, and there's so much growth. And that is really, really awesome to see.
I especially like classmates turned colleagues, or professors turned colleagues, or
Yes, I mean,
people
we
who were
interviewed
already
Raina.
colleagues. Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah,
like.
Raina and Cassie's interviews were definitely an example of that. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking to Cassie and Raina as a colleague was very interesting. It was
Yeah.
so cool, and it just warmed my heart, and I'm sure they felt some semblance of that as well. Cassie even commented to me that it was such an interesting and dynamic role reversal and that she loved getting interviewed by me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was super cool getting to talk to her about her passions and her personal musical endeavors, her past career. Same thing with Reina and how she took on this entire new project of writing a book. That's no small feat. And
Yeah.
investigating the world of positive psychology, how it intersects with music. So diving into these topics that are so deeply personal and important to them after they helped shape us so deeply, it felt like, you know, almost returning the same level of dedication and respect that they had for us as students.
100%. I think I love being able to have Reina and Cassandra as role models because I feel like for the time that we were in music school, or for me, at least for me in particular, having just these like brilliant, kind, bright women to look up to who like had important things to say and were always just so like loving and encouraging the whole time. Really, every interaction I ever had with them during school and after has always just made me feel really good about myself. And like it, especially now as a music teacher right now, I feel like I try to bring some of their energy into what I do because I'm like I remember like I feel like being a music teacher, those kinds of teachers that you really connected with, who saw you and understood you and really tried to lift you up, can change lives, like, and change the
100%.
trajectory of what you do. Yeah. And I just want to, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, regardless of whether or not I'm like a teacher for the rest of my life or like 2 weeks, like, I hope that, like, whatever energy I've been able to suck up from Rain and Cassandra and I try to like put back into these kids, I'm like, I hope that it helps them kind of like, I don't know, just open themselves up. And even if they don't stick with music, I feel like I hope that they're able to just bring a little bit of that like newfound, I don't know, confidence and love for the arts into whatever else they end up doing. And I feel like they really did that for
Absolutely.
us, or definitely for me.
Oh, 1000% I agree. They did that for me as well. One thing that I especially admired about both of them is how unapologetically they are both themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel very tempting in higher education, and Raina and I discussed this during our interview, to tone yourself down to fit the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And if we know anything about Raina, she is never going to tone herself down. And I love that about her because I find that so relatable, the struggle between wanting to be accepted, wanting to be taken seriously, but also not wanting to compromise or jeopardize who I am as a person, and still being able to outwardly express that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was super valuable for me as a young 18-year-old walking into her door, first day of school, to see someone who was just vibrant and excited and genuinely so passionate about being there with us. It never felt once like it was an obligation for her. It clearly felt like it was a calling.
Mm-hmm. I loved that about her as well. I remember there was one. Now this is just telling stories from college, but
Yeah, I
I
mean, totally.
remember there was one class that we were in. I think you were in the other section of this class, but that like kind of performance class we had early freshman year, um, where we got to like perform in front of each other and we had to make like vision boards and there were like movement exercises and there was just like it was such a
I
multifaceted
remember that.
class and I
Yeah.
genuinely loved it so much and I feel like a lot of people hated it,
A
but
lot of people did hate it. I loved
I
it
could not
too.
understand. I loved it and I feel like it was fun, if you just like let yourself
Yeah.
enjoy it.
I didn't
um
understand the people who hated it. I feel like they
yeah.
just didn't want to let themselves enjoy it in a way. They thought they were too cool for it,
Yeah.
or it was like they didn't want to like let loose, get out of their skin. And I
Hmm.
think, that's not going to work as a performer.
I agree. I think it's the kind of people who see themselves a certain way and have to stick with that, that like they've decided what kind of artist or what kind of person they want to be, and don't want anything penetrating that. Otherwise, I think they feel like it'll water them down. And a lot of artists are like that, or people who aren't necessarily artists, but like want to be writers or like session musicians and things like that. I think it depends on the person. But I remember there's one class in particular of this one where she had some of us like perform like just like maybe like a minute or two of something, and then like she was gonna give us feedback and then kind of explain it in a way that would, I don't know, like make sense and not like a technical way. And I remember I did mine, and she told me that I sing like I'm running to the end of a diving board, and right before I jump in, I change my mind, and then I slip and fall in instead. And I was like, that is such
so vivid.
a visceral image. But also, she was totally right. Like, I was like, she was like, I'm sorry, was that harsh? And I was like, no, that's the exact thing I needed to hear. Thank you so much for that.
It's hilarious.
She was
because
just
I am
reading
like
us for
that.
filth.
I'm literally like that as a teacher too. And yesterday I had a student and she was doing phenomenal. I'm teaching her about songwriting and recording. And one of the things that I said was just like so blunt and straightforward. And I was just like, but you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I was not trying to be harsh, but it was more a matter of, this is what I said. I said, these rhymes feel a little bit like you're trying to be Dr. Seuss.
Let her know.
But it was true. And she knew exactly what I talked about. And she's like, oh, okay. Like,
she's
just
like,
this one
cat,
stanza.
Cat.
Yeah, it was kind of, yeah. So it was just not at the level that the rest of the song was. And I knew she could do better. So I was using that to push her. But then immediately as I said it, I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't mean that in a bad way.
No,
and she's like, no, I see what you're saying. But Raina always had this way of being incredibly direct, but feeling like it was your best friend telling you. Not like someone was chastising you. Like it was your best friend or like really trusted aunt just saying, hey, you know that outfit does not look good, right?
Yeah.
But I love you, but you should probably figure that out. Yeah. And that's kind of like the energy that was there, and I think that was very needed at that time. Like egos had to be checked at the door
100%
going into music school, and I think a lot of people failed to realize that until maybe even the next year.
Yeah, a lot of people also just failed to check their egos the entire time, so I hope they're doing well now. But yeah, no.
Best of luck. Best of luck.
Best of luck. Yeah, it was also great talking to Jahan, because Jahan's also somebody that we went through that
Jahan
program
was in
with,
my
for those who haven't
section
seen it.
of that class.
Yeah. I loved how during our conversation with Jahan, he was just so like raw and vulnerable and honest about like his experience as an artist, because I think that sometimes we're missing that a little bit from, like, we all try to I don't know, put on a idea of what we want people to see as an artist, and we're supposed to position ourselves in a way that's like, let people know you, but don't let them know you enough that you still have some mystery, but also they want to know you. And there's like so many different aspects of that. But Jahan has always just been like a very, just like a kind, open, honest person. Like down at base level, but that also as an artist, I feel like, I don't know, like the times that we've been able to collaborate in class or otherwise, I feel like he's always just so intentional about his process and intentional about wanting to try new things and about what kinds of sounds and soundscapes and aesthetics he wants to have, and like always has a vision of those things, but never does it in a way that's like, I don't know, stubborn or pushy or anything like that. And I think that he always manages to create these kinds of visions in a very unique way. I don't think there's a lot of artists like him right now, honestly. At least that I listen to. And I think we deserve more of him. I want to hear more music. If you're listening to this, Jahan, I'll text him after this, actually.
This is shout out to Jahan.
Shout out to
music,
Jahan.
please.
I think he's so lovely, and would like to hear more from him, please. But yeah, I think it's great that we got the chance to be in close quarters with other artists trying to do the same thing. And I think we were all so different, in really lovely ways, managed to, I don't know, create some really good collaborations, or at least like have people alongside you that you could see, like maybe some of the time you were like, is this competition? But overall, I felt like we were a really good like group of people overall.
Yeah, I feel like there was always more camaraderie than competition.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10. And the few times that there was competition, it was never truly cutthroat. Because ultimately, I mean, what are the stakes here?
Hmm.
Getting the same good grade on an assignment? I mean,
Yeah. Getting an
ultimately,
ensemble.
like you're trying to lift each other up to a certain extent, and I feel like our community allowed that culture to thrive, whereas I also went to a performing arts high school and I did not feel that same culture there. It felt honestly like they pit a lot of us against each other at times.
Hmm.
The school itself wasn't necessarily at fault, but certain departments, certain students, certain teachers. So I loved going to college and feeling the exact opposite of that culture at Frost.
Yeah. That was a really important part of even choosing to go to Frost in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I was stuck between Frost and Berkeley College of
Mhm.
Music because I had gotten an acceptance from them too. And I was just like, okay, Berkeley has this whole name thing happening for it. Everyone knows who they are in the music world. Honestly, Frost is also becoming like that as well. They're top 5 in the country
Mhm.
for contemporary
And they had a
music.
cameo in Mean Girls.
Yes, and they
Period.
and they have one of the best music business programs in the country, shout
Mhm.
out. But at the time, sometimes you want to believe the hype about a big name. But I had spent time at Berkeley on the campus for a summer program. I adored the summer program. I had a wonderful time, and it's a great institution. However, I did not want to feel like I was drowning in a sea of the same thing. I
Mhm.
wanted to feel like I was a part of a dynamic, integrated, engaging community that was part of another university as a whole. I wanted to be one piece of the pie, not like the entire entree at the
Yeah.
same time. I wanted more to my experience than just what one school or college had to offer, and I feel like Miami gave me the most well-rounded experience I could have asked for.
Mm.
It gave me the whole classic Americana college experience while also giving me an incredibly catered uh, music education and music business, production, songwriting, performance, movement. I'm also minored in poli sci, so it allowed me to express and explore all these interests that I wouldn't have been able to do at Berkeley.
Yeah. I agree. I remember even this feels like an ad for Frost.
I mean,
But I
honestly, like, go Canes forever. I will never
okay.
stop saying that. Go Canes.
Yeah. I definitely feel like there were other high school programs that I did that I also really enjoyed, but being on the Frost campus, I remember there was one person in particular who I met when I went there who was just like so kind. And I think that was one of the first times I felt like there was camaraderie in general, like
Hmm.
in this community of musicians, that like we got to shadow classes.
That was
Um,
so much fun.
I know I genuinely
Being
had a
like
lot
a
of fun.
17-year-old high schooler and shadowing college classes, you felt like the coolest person in the world.
It
It
was
was so
awesome.
cute.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
I enjoyed it so much. I was like, oh my god, I do have a thirst for learning. Turns out I didn't know.
I met Noah Gardner doing that. I met Noah Gardner when I was 17,
Hmm.
and he was like a sophomore at the time or something. And I shadowed his class. I also met Christina Martino that
Yeah,
way. And I also met, I think, Allison that way.
Katie.
And I might have met Katie. I met
Yeah,
a lot of people in their class that way. I met Dan Arcee, I'm pretty sure, that day.
probably. Yeah,
It was just a
I
lot
think I
of
did
a
as
lot
well.
of cool people. And I definitely saw um like Carter Vale perform, and like Sarah Keaton,
Hmm.
and like
Kaden,
a
maybe.
lot, sorry,
I
Sarah.
don't know.
I guess just Sarah. A lot of people perform as like the senior class or the junior class at the time, and I was like awestruck. It was
They
just
were
so
awesome.
cool
And now
getting to
Sarah is
experience
like
that.
part of Kid Sister, and they're amazing, and I love their music so much.
A hundred
Um,
percent.
and like, yeah, just getting to like meet this group of musicians. I feel like that class in particular, they were like 2 years ahead of us.
Hmm.
And I thought they were so cool. And I was like, I want to be your
I
best
know.
friend. And like, they were so welcoming. And I remember Katie in particular, but like just all of them being like, yeah, like there's an extra seat over here, come sit. And I just got to like chat with them for a little while, and they were like, yeah, there's this going on tonight. This person has a show on Friday if you want to come through. Like there's like baseball games, there's this going on. Like I remember they just like gave me an
Yeah.
itinerary for while I was there, and they were like, yeah, you should come by, like check it out. Like, can't wait to
It
see
did
you in the
feel
fall.
like it did feel like we had such a special community, especially
Hmm.
before COVID.
Yeah,
I feel like COVID
it ruined
changed
it.
a lot of the dynamic because, of course, like we weren't allowed to really gather, weren't allowed to have
Hmm.
parties, and Frost was, well known for having Frost parties, and that
Hmm.
was how we developed
Sorry.
such a community. I mean, we would have, like house shows and
Hmm.
local Frost bands would come and do amazing like 3-hour sets. You would almost have a little music festival in someone's Coral Gables backyard,
Hmm.
and it was the best. It was the best experience ever. And, all of that kind of stopped because of COVID. I do remember, though, when was this? Yeah, this was the end of my junior year. So, sort of towards the tail end of our first full COVID year. So, spring 2021,
Hmm.
when we started sort of being allowed to have gatherings again. And I remember feeling like that senior class, the class of 2021, was almost the beginning of the end of that very special culture of
Yeah.
camaraderie. And I don't know if that's just my perspective or if genuinely it's changed. But I feel like the pandemic and people who entered school after the pandemic began have an entirely different perspective on each other
Hmm.
and on the level of community they want to have and are comfortable having than what we experienced.
Yeah.
And I say this because as a junior, that was the senior class. So we were graduating 22, they graduated 21. They had so many, traditions that they carried out, like as an entire class.
Hmm.
They hosted like an entire, basically senior class going away goodbye party that semester. And it
Yeah.
was so special to be able to see everyone in the same place. And then, with our class, that sort of continued a bit, but it was harder when we were the senior class to do that.
Hmm.
And then beyond that, I just don't know if that culture kind of continued in the same way. But I also think that everyone has a skewed perspective on their own college experience. So
Yeah. I think like I think our group tried, but I think there was so much distance and there were so many
because
people
the
that we didn't
pandemic
get
put
to
like,
meet.
yeah, like
Yeah.
oceans between us,
Yeah.
basically.
Like one of my closest friends here now, I didn't even he also went to Frost and I didn't even get to meet him until after I graduated. Like
Wow.
I like that's there's so many people I'm like names that you heard here and there and like people we kind of knew of or like people whose Instagrams we saw or like somebody who was dating somebody who knows this person. Like it's such a
Yeah.
small community, but even still we didn't know each other that well
Yeah, and I
after
feel like
that.
between departments, it was kind of rare also to
Hmm.
have close friends. Like, the only people I knew outside of contemporary were the jazz and classical people who chose to take production classes.
Hmm.
So, like, I knew them through their MUI or um, MWP majors
Hmm.
rather than like their principal instruments or ensembles. And then beyond that, like, I've met people from the jazz department now that I like stayed living in Miami that I never met in school. Nicole is an example of that, actually. I
Hmm.
never met her while we were in school, but she's super cool. And, you know, that was something that's interesting also, how that kind of cross pollination, it's not that it wasn't encouraged or allowed, it just, there was not time for it to happen. Like, we were all so wrapped up in what we were doing in our own departments
Hmm.
that it almost felt impossible to even have the space to do that. But it's interesting because we all had such similar but also distinct experiences. And I'm sure, we talked to some of the classical or jazz students and they would have a different perspective entirely.
Yeah. I think it was interesting to see what everyone else was kind of up to. I think it at least like because we were kind of robbed from it, I think it at least makes it a little bit easier to seek that out now. Like now that we know it's important to us. I don't know. And I feel like we've talked about this in past episodes too, but like trying to find community as an artist, it gets kind of hard at a certain point trying to find people who are like-minded and not competing and who really value you and your work and like you as a person. But I feel like at least nowadays, like for me, like moving back to New York and being able to put myself out there and like take up more space as an artist, if that makes sense, because I also feel like If you're the kind of person who is an artist going to music school, or even not, there's just so much incubating you still need to do. I think for me, I really felt like I was a late bloomer for a long time, because I'm like, I had the interest and I cared so much, but I didn't feel like I knew how to put myself out there as an artist. And then coming into this space where, like, I feel like getting in the first place is like, you are good enough to be with these people, you'd think.
Yeah.
But then, like,
it's validating.
yeah, it's validating. And then at the same time, I'm like, but I don't feel like I'm the same as these people. Like, I feel like getting to meet people that, like, had been doing it since they were younger or had super supportive parents. And I'm like, not that my parents didn't support me, because obviously they sent me to school in the first place, right? But I think nowadays getting to just sort of like being allowed to open up a little bit more, and finding an artist community that's not like everyone has to be this kind of star in order to be worth listening to. It's like everyone's allowed to kind of be themselves and be authentic and unique, and like weird. Like at least of the people I've met, like everyone's kind of allowed to just exist as they are.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I don't know. It does a lot of,
I love that.
like, artist work and personal journey work.
Yeah. I feel like that's something I've tried focusing on a lot in the past 6 months, especially finding and forming that community here. Because, you know, when we graduated, everyone kind of swiftly departed. So it was really challenging to know where to begin in that situation. And this harkens back to a lot of previous episodes where we talked about making friends in your 20s and all of those things. I find that even if it's not in the music community, there's always someone tangentially related to music in some setting that I've been in. Even just meeting random friends at a happy hour, or meeting new people, I have seen, okay, this person works in photography, this person does music on the side, this person knows about music business. And it's just interesting because it's such an overlooked and undervalued facet of our media consumption, but it's also so integral to our daily lives.
Yeah.
And that oxymoron is very irritating to me. Because just like we were talking about with Aiden Smith about the value of music in society, everyone listens to music. Everyone needs music, either in their daily lives, in their daily commute, for the TV shows and movies and content they consume. But like he said in his episode, people aren't willing to put a price on that anymore. And it feels impossible to even ask them to.
Yeah.
And I can't blame them either, because in this economy, who wants to pay for the one thing that you're deriving happiness from?
Exactly.
I don't know. so it's just like, I understand, and it's not their fault. It's not the consumer's fault. But then for us, it puts us in a really odd place. And it makes us question, like, how do we monetize this on the way to success? It's not just about reaching a certain level. Obviously, being able to use music as your self-sustaining career, that would be success to me. I think that is what success should be in any career, being able to do what your craft is and make a living off of it comfortably. But, you know, that process of getting to that point has, I think, never been less clear than in this era. Because at the very least, and this sounds a little harsh also, but, you know, back in the time where you needed to use a record label to distribute music, at the very least, they would tell you to your face, this is not going to work out, find a day job. That's not happening anymore. So the consumer is forced to bear the brunt of sorting through the good and the bad and the medium and finding what they have interest in. That is infinitely harder to pierce through than just going to a gatekeeper like a record label or uploading things to YouTube, I guess, at the beginning stages, not what it is now. And, you know, kind of having someone say, yes, this is going to work. Or, no, we're going to develop you for a few years, and you have talent, but you need to develop. This will work later, like we saw with Rihanna and Taylor Swift. That doesn't happen anymore. If you're not out of the gate, turnkey, ready, or already with a platform, they don't even want to touch you. They don't want anything to do with you. And I think that's a shame, because it's taking away the artistic process. it's making it so consumer or consumption oriented, really, that we have to constantly produce, release, and it doesn't focus on the vision or the craft anymore, and only the biggest artists are afforded that luxury.
100%. We live in a consumer-based society. And it's
Everything's
funny.
an ad now. Everything.
I'm sick of it. This in particular, anytime I'm scrolling TikTok, every maybe 2 scrolls is an ad now. And it's gotten to the point where I've kind of given in to the monster, where I'm like curating my ads because I'm like, I know you're gonna give them to me anyway. I may as well at least give you information to give me things I want, which is maybe how they get your personal information. But I'm like, at least show me like the elf lip oil or something, because I will buy more, and I did run out of the one I like. So show me ads for that so I remember. But I do feel like I was having this conversation actually with one of my other artist friends recently, but we were talking about how trying to get people to come out to shows is a little bit difficult, especially when you're like a New York artist and you don't have a huge following, and it's kind of the same people coming to a lot of your shows. And you do these shows to try to get people who don't know you out to see you and see you in action, because it's one thing to be listening to somebody's music, but if they're a good performer, it's another thing getting to see them like and interact with them and have fun in a crowd, right? And in that conversation, I was talking about how I feel like I have my artist friends and I have my consumer friends. And consumer friends is very general and I love them dearly, but like they're people who are not actively creating art generally. And I feel like the way that they respond to invites for some of these things is a little bit different, because as artists it's kind of like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours situation, where it's like I'm definitely gonna support my people, but I know they're gonna support me too. And that's just how that works, and it's like a collective, right? But I feel like other friends that I have we're not necessarily one very large friend group, it's just like dispersed. And if they're not actively artists, they won't come to anything that they are not directly interested in, unless it's
They
like
don't see
my
the
show
value in
specifically.
it. Yeah.
I'm like, they're
Like
just
they
coming
won't
because they
see,
love
they want,
me.
yeah, they want to know like what's in it for them.
Right.
You know?
And so I think that as an artist community, I think we need to be trying to find ways to hack the system a little bit better, and like ways to incentivize people to come to the shows for something else and then stay for the music itself. Because I think people are tired of ads and they're tired of artists begging for people to listen to their stuff. It's just not working. And we don't really have other ways to get music out to the public besides just like putting it on social media and being like, please listen again. Oh, you saw me 2 scrolls again, but please listen also. Like it's
Yeah, and
getting
it feels,
repetitive.
yeah, and then it also forces the artists to take on the full brunt of competing against full-fledged marketing campaigns and teams
Exactly.
with major labels, or even TikTok itself pushing out creators and influencers and their music, or specific sounds. So it pushes the independent artist into a space of feeling kind of inadequate from the jump, because they're up against a team that has multiple people, multiple eyes, hands working on this, and hundreds of thousands of marketing dollars. And the difference there is, with a bigger budget to create that kind of marketing content, I mean, look at the sort of work that Flyana Boss has been doing, with very interesting like camera styles and things like that, or the boyfriend song that just came out, Lay Banks, that one that went viral. The reason those songs went viral is because the visuals were so interesting, and they were all done by Evan Bloom Made It. So Evan Bloom is a videographer in Los Angeles who's very well known now because of his unique content creation style. Very awesome on his part, very happy for him. But of course now he's being contracted by major labels with, big budgets. So even if you can say a 30-second TikTok doesn't take much money to produce, in theory it doesn't, but when someone's services are providing a distinct look that has worked as a formula for multiple artists, to go viral on the platform, that editing and filming process is going to be expensive, not to mention the marketing push on each individual video, because you best believe there are marketing dollars behind every TikTok and every Instagram post of these rising artists with labels. So, not to say there's anything wrong with that, there isn't. That's how it works. But as an independent artist, how do you compete? How do you out brainstorm a team that has been doing this professionally their whole lives?
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. And I think we have been working to face that challenge head on, but at the same time, as, one person teams, it kind of feels like, burnout can happen really easily.
Yeah. And I think it's really it's funny that we say that, because I remember before you even started this podcast, like, we had started FaceTiming because of that exact thing. And like, we are
Yes.
both burnt out, trying to get our careers off the ground and need new ideas. And
Yeah.
we're long distance friends, and we didn't get to like talk to each other as much anymore. And starting to like bounce ideas off of each other of like ways that would be good to try to market ourselves and things to put that into. And I feel like, well, maybe since we've been doing this, we haven't been doing that as much, but I think we should
do that.
And I think
we should do that again. I was thinking that.
Yeah, in the same ways that like some of my artist friends here do like a made style like writers round of like,
that's cool,
getting on Zoom and sharing music the way that we used to in college.
Oh, that's awesome.
I wonder if like we could do something like that, but specifically with artist marketing. I think people get scared of it because you don't want people to like steal your idea and then everyone's content looks the same. But I do think that there is a benefit to just getting fresh ideas from people who care about you. And I feel like maybe that would be a good idea for us to
I totally agree. I want to do that with you again and jump into it. I think another thing is you're less critical creating ideas for someone else. I think when I'm creating ideas for myself, I'm hypercritical. I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm a perfectionist. I'm like, okay, it's not good enough. Like, I don't know if this is what I want, or it just feels overwhelming to have that definitively be my decision, I guess. But when you're brainstorming or bouncing ideas off of someone else, you almost get that instant validation of like, oh no, that's a great idea. Or them telling you an idea, oh wow, that sounds really cool. From your perspective, that's a good idea. From my perspective, it's a good idea. Probably a good idea. So you're getting a consensus one way or another. And it can feel very daunting to just throw stuff out into the void and hope that it sticks without even having the beginning of an idea if someone else will even like it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, I want to go into a quick commercial break before our next segment. Hey guys, welcome back. We're in our next segment. Right now, I just want to continue a little bit of where we left off in our conversation before. We were talking about community and how important that is in this career path. Just to touch upon some of the other topics that we've also talked about, imposter syndrome, I think, is a big one that plays into this. Being able to feel like you are qualified and capable to pursue what you're actively doing. I think that's something that holds back a lot of women, especially because we've been kind of trained to have to outperform so much more just to even have the initial opportunity. And we talked about this a lot with Haley Fishberger when she was on our show. We've talked about it a little bit with some other guests like Marley. And Marley's perspective was really cool too, just kind of going through her experience from her eyes of her very first music video, and then how she went through the video editing process, how she felt a little bit like the videographer didn't take her 100% seriously because she was the artist wearing all of these hats, and normally the editing process or the marketing process would be something a manager would handle. So there are different elements that can come into play here between, gender elements, the fact that normally artists are seen to need a third party to kind of intervene between them and business negotiations. All of these things can impact you and like how you move through the business. So I think what I mean to say by this is the most important thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't matter if one person doesn't take you seriously. you have to take yourself so seriously that you can laugh in their face about them laughing in yours. You know, and you can easily pick up and move on to the next person, because no matter what, if you are doing something with enough confidence, someone else will believe in you too. It can be literally the worst thing in the world, quality-wise. It can sound horrible, but if you are confident enough, you better believe someone else will believe you too. It is the truth. Like, I've seen super terrible things be applauded because they're very confident about it.
Like what?
Like someone playing guitar. Oh. Remember that one time I told you about? I did talk about this a few episodes back, but I had a friend who was not a guitarist, pianist, and played electric guitar for like a punk basement show. And it was just like me watching a subway car fall off the tracks. And I was like, oh, this is really
Sorry
rough.
to that friend if you're listening right now.
But they did it so confidently that like everyone ate it up. And then I was thinking to myself, why do I even have insecurity about this? Yeah. Like, why won't I just get on stage and rip? Like, I know that I could, at least to an extent. Like, I'm not going to sit here and claim I'm the world's greatest guitarist. Am I absolutely competent and good at the instrument? Yes. I literally got into 2 colleges on that instrument. Yeah. So I'm not understanding my own self in like not having that confidence. So genuinely, like, the hardest pill to swallow for me has been like, literally, you need the confidence. If you don't believe it, no one else will. Period. And I have to believe it. Like, girl, I believe it now. Yeah. I believe the hype. You have to believe your own hype.
Let me know. Put it on a t-shirt. No, I was also having this conversation with somebody recently. I don't even remember who it was actually. Oh, no, I do. It was one of my friends. One of my friends, Regina, actually. Shout out to her if she's listening. She was telling me the other week that, and I do believe this to be true as well, but that like a huge reason why artists fail is self-doubt. It's self-doubt and then they just stop. And I think that feeling is so common among us because we are always feeling imposter syndrome. Everything that we do is opinion based. Like you can only build, there's only so many skills you need to be a successful artist. And there's so much luck involved. There's so much opinion involved and perspective and the way people see you. And she was telling me, she was like, I really hope that you don't become a casualty of self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Because one other person who's talked about this as well is Kehlani, actually. Oh, wow. I remember, and I've always been a huge Kehlani fan. And when I first started like actually making music, she was like my number 1 artist at the time and still is. If you're listening to this, Kehlani, no, I definitely like, I remember there was an interview that she did from a while ago where she talked about how when she was in LA and after like she was on X Factor, and then the group that she was on X Factor with dropped her. And then Nick Cannon found her again and was like, you were the best person.
Not Nick Cannon.
I know. He was he was the one who was like, you were the most talented person from this group. Like, and we need to do something. He's the most fertile person
from that group.
Aside from that, it was at least nice that like having the kind of person who, I guess he like went to go find the group again after I don't think they won, but I think they were runner-ups. And he was like, okay guys, let's make some music, where's Kehlani? And they were like, we dumped her. And he was like, oh no, this will not work. He's and like, then went to go find her. Mistake. Yeah. Which was he could make his own decisions, but God bless Nick Cannon for finding Kehlani after that, because we needed her. But I remember they did an interview where they said that the number 1, or most of the things that they saw when they were out in LA, of artists that Kehlani knew who did not make it to where she is were either from substance abuse or self-doubt, and then they just stopped. Those were the 2 main things.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, it makes sense. But I'm like, that's so sad. And she was like, yeah, like so many like talented friends that she had, that she believed in, that did not get to make it to where she is, either because of substance abuse, which is also really rampant in the music community as well, because creatives are kind of like that, and also we need to drown our sorrows of
Well,
self-doubt.
I think there's a reason behind it though. I
Mm,
think so many creative people probably have undiagnosed
got
ADHD
to.
and or other anxiety problems or whatever
Mm-hmm.
else is happening. I think a
Neurodivergence
lot of
overall.
creatives are very undiagnosed with multiple things.
Yeah.
I was undiagnosed with ADHD until last year.
Mm-hmm.
How I was, I don't know, but I was. So I think it's a coping mechanism. I mean, it's known that people with ADHD, people with autism, people with anxiety often self medicate
Mm-hmm.
using drugs and alcohol. And it's unfortunately the downfall of so many people suffering from mental health disorders because they are not supported enough in their own lives to feel comfortable or to feel free from the stigma to seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Either help from addiction or just help from the symptoms of whatever they are experiencing mentally. So I think in general, the artistic community is plagued by that. So many of us like see the light at the end of the tunnel, but then it starts to feel really, really far away.
Right.
And I think for some people that can just mean, okay, like it's time to turn back. And either they turn to something like a substance or they give up altogether. But for the few that end up making it through the tunnel, it's been a long process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not even like halfway there yet.
Oh
So
God.
I'm not trying to say
I'm
that in a bad way.
tired.
I'm just like, you know, it's a matter of almost endurance.
Yeah.
It's like survival of the fittest.
It really
And
is.
that's and it's scary, but I think, you know, it's all that we have left really to distinguish ourselves between each other
Mm-hmm.
now as independent artists, because like I said before, we don't have record labels kind of shortening that process and doing that for us.
100%.
I think that's also why it feels so lengthy now and why it feels like never ending, because there isn't like a cut point where people are getting picked up, you know? It's like you're almost at the end of the road by the time you get picked up,
Oh God.
you know?
Oh yeah. No.
I'm not trying to say that pessimistically. I'm
No,
just
no.
saying that in like the most real observation possible.
If anything, I think it's a good thing, at least, that like, sorry, I've been holding this yawn in. If anything, I think it's a good thing that artists are getting picked up a little bit older, because we've seen
Yeah.
so many things in the media and from like artists and celebrities and like child actors and stars that we really looked up to, and just how bad it was for them, with nobody protecting them, or just being vulnerable to that kind of criticism at such a young age, that I'm at
Mhm.
least glad that people are allowed to incubate a little bit more now. And I
Mhm.
think being an independent artist and having to be an independent artist for longer really, I think, will just help people hold a little bit more steadfast in themselves and their vision.
Yeah.
And I think it's great when you're allowed
That's
to
true.
develop without a corporation breathing down your neck, you know?
Yeah.
Especially as an adult, because I think it's different when you're
Yeah.
like, you're a kid and you're like 15, like a 15-year-old SoundCloud rapper who gets picked up by, I don't know, a record label at 17, did not have enough time to really build their own voice and their own aesthetic, and whatever kind of BS that a record label is going to shove down their throat, this is what you should look like, this is what you should sound like, this is who you should collaborate with. They don't have enough time to build opinions for themselves in the same way that we're
Yeah.
able to. And
Yeah.
granted, if I had been approached with a record deal at 17, I would have taken it probably. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that at the age I'm at right now, I mean, even down to like who I was dating when I was like 19 was not who I would right now. And my music also sounds very different. And I think if I had gotten pigeonholed as whatever kind of artist I was when I was 19 and had to kind of stay in that for monetary value and for people to like me and for a label to keep me, or at least to keep me off the bench, which happens so often as well, I think I'd be a very different person, and I think I'd be a very different artist. So I'm glad
Yeah.
at least that, I don't know, having the time to be a kid and a young adult as well, I think will always be a good thing. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
happy for the community I've been able to build and the friends and the collaboration and the skills that I've been able to learn, because I think it also is different when, you're a younger teen and having to be in the studio and
Yeah.
learn from adults and things like that, and people assume you don't need these skills, so you don't really learn them, as opposed to, like, we've learned of our own accord and sought out information and sought out each other to learn information from, and then also going to school ourselves. Like, I think
Yeah.
everyone, since we've gone through this, has given us the kind of support that will create well-rounded, self-sufficient people. And I think that's who we are now because of it. Sorry, I feel like I
Yeah,
went on a tangent, but
no, it's okay. I was gonna say, two things. First of all, touching upon what you said about community and friends,
mhm.
I remember Billie Eilish saying pretty recently that at her birthday party, she looked around the room and everyone was on her payroll.
Mm.
And that is like a heartbreaking realization
That's not
to
even what I
stand
thought you were gonna
there.
say.
No, like to
Whoa.
stand there and realize like no one is there just because they love you,
Mm.
except for maybe like her family. Like because she's at this great level of success, it's been isolating.
Mm.
And I think, like a lot of celebrities have huge friend groups or appear that way on social media. But Billie's unique in a way that she didn't really come up like in that typical kind of influencer celebrity lifestyle that's kind of happening more now for these artists.
Mm.
She did start out really blowing up on SoundCloud 2015, 2016, where she was extremely young
Mm-hmm.
and really was kind of thrusted into this professional realm super early before she really had a chance to know herself, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've felt this way recently, but I kind of feel that prefrontal cortex starting to,
Oh,
to
it's
solidify. I
mm-hmm.
genuinely am feeling so different as a person than I did a year ago,
Yes.
and very different than I did 2 years ago when we were still in school or when we graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely, it's like night and day, and I don't know how to explain it other than maturing a little
Mm-hmm.
bit mentally,
Yeah.
physically, emotionally.
We are adult women. Like, well, I think I finally feel like an adult woman in terms of
Yeah.
like the decisions I'm making and how
How you
I
can make
see
the
people.
decisions,
Yeah,
yes.
how we're making the
How you
decisions.
trust yourself to make those
Yeah,
decisions
and
too.
what we keep in mind when making those decisions. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like for a long time I was just like, la di da, like, I'll figure it
Yeah.
out. I'm a star. People like me, or maybe not. I don't know. Like, I feel like there was a lot of uncertainty, but like blind optimism. And I think I
Oh, I
still maybe have
absolutely
some.
had that.
I think I still have some of that blind optimism.
I definitely had a lot more blind optimism than I do now.
Yeah,
I think I'm a realistic optimist.
yeah.
Uh,
Which.
I know that, good things come to those who work for them,
Mm-hmm,
right? And I think we have been putting in the work super consistently. We are both very talented individuals.
mm-hmm.
So we have to keep focused on that light at the end of the tunnel. We have to.
Agree.
It is our lifeline.
Yeah.
However, I used to think just like something would magically fall out of the sky and into my lap, and I'd be like, all of a sudden overnight, woohoo, like
Huge international
I'm like
success.
selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. And
No.
I knew logically it wasn't like that because I know success doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
I've known that since I was very, very young. But it just kind of felt like it was going to happen one day. It would just
Because that's what it
randomly
looks
happen.
like. It happens to
Exactly.
other
And
people.
one
When that's not
example of
true.
this is super interesting, Chapel Roan,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the most intense and rapid rise to instant insane success that I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah.
I think since maybe Lady Gaga.
I want to do like
to
a
be
case
honest.
study on her.
And it's interesting because Chapel obviously has been working very hard in her career, probably the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
I started following her about like 2.5 years ago. We talked about this a little bit before, but what intrigues me the most is that I've seen so many people just randomly talking about her on social media. I went to a dance class this Tuesday and our teacher choreographed to Hot to Go. Our entire dance routine was to Hot to Go.
Yeah.
And I was
Did you still
shook.
do the...
I was like, yeah, he did like a little bit of a variation on it.
Oh
yeah, we did that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But he just like added to it,
Yeah.
remixed it basically. But what was so interesting to me is like I saw someone on Snapchat posting, "Oh, someone take my card away. I just dropped $80 in a Chapel Roan vinyl." Someone else posted a caption that was, "It's Chapel Roan June or something, Happy Pride,"
Yeah.
with their girlfriend. And I was just like, everyone knows. Like,
Everyone knows who
obviously
Chaperone
a
is.
lot of these people are in the LGBT community, so that influences also what I'm seeing on my feed. But in general, I feel like more people of our generation than even 6 months ago like know who she is.
Yeah.
She's becoming a household name, at least in our age group, so fast.
Her follower count in the past like 6 months has gotten huge. Like, watching her
I mean,
career
she was in the
from
hundreds
before,
of thousands, and now she's in the millions.
yes. And I saw somebody talking about and I do believe this to be true as well. Her music is everything. I think she's amazing. I think she's an amazing artist. I think she's a great songwriter. I think she's got great vision. I also saw a video of her when she was opening for Olivia Rodrigo like 2 years ago or something like that. And like she still had on like the sparkly outfits, but she had like a little bit less confidence, and her hair was different. And a lot of people,
there's a hair theory about her.
yes, there's not even
That
just
the red
her,
hair did it.
but yeah, I've seen people talking about the like star hair or something like that, celebrity hair, icon hair, and I agree as well. I think that it's not
Sabrina
even about
Carpenter
the hair.
has it too.
Sabrina Carpenter has it. I think a
Hair
lot
and
of
makeup,
people
the
do.
distinct look.
Yeah, it's a distinct look that helps with your branding that also doesn't look like anybody else. And I think the red hair on Chaperone in particular does a really good job of that. Same with Ice Spice. And I think for a while people were like, why is she keeping the people were calling her like little orphan Annie? Like, as much as she got clowned for the hair, it is also such a distinguishable feature.
She has a chia pet. Like, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
There's an Ice Spice chia pet. Like, I mean, if that's not good branding, I don't know what is.
Yeah. And at least
I mean, just like Paris Hilton is to Juicy Couture and Pink, like, you know that's Paris Hilton immediately. Same thing with Ice Spice in her hair, Sabrina Carpenter and the face hair look, Chapel Roan and the intense hair, drag-inspired outfits. Like, there's so many layers to that.
Yeah. I think Pink Pantheress kind of lends herself to that too. I do think she has star hair, and especially, and I know because when I went to go see her live in New York, they had a fan blowing her hair back, and it looked gorgeous, but they made sure to keep the fan low enough that it didn't mess up her bangs, and I did notice that. And I think that is so genius. Yeah, because it's at least, and same with Sabrina Carpenter. I think it's always just enough that her bangs never get messed up. Whatever they're doing to keep her bangs in place, beautiful job. But I do think that there's so much like confidence that you can exude once you look like you believe you're a star. I think that's a huge part of it. So I'm like, maybe I need to do more of that. I don't know. Maybe that will be the next phase of my branding. But yeah, I think that'd be
feel
fun.
like identifying what that is for you or me, like just in general, is like hard. I feel definitely like more myself since I've changed my hair back to blonde or blonde adjacent. I really like this hairstyle on me. I really loved the purple too. I feel like it just depends. Like moving forward, I don't know what the future holds with my hair.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Anything you want. What about like ginger?
I don't know if I could pull that
like
off because I have like
blonde?
red undertones.
That's fair.
Strawberry blonde might be
I don't
interesting.
know though, because in the same way that, okay, so if we're going back to Sabrina Carpenter, I saw somebody, and I fully agree with this because I've also done my research, but based on, a lot of people say like your natural hair color is what looks best on you because it matches with your skin tone naturally and things like that. But I do think that there are certain things that the purpose of it is not necessarily for it to match your skin tone specifically. It's what it does in general to your overall look. And I saw somebody who was saying that Sabrina Carpenter should go back to her natural color, which is like still kind of blonde, but like a darker blonde. And that it would draw more attention back to her face. And I remember thinking that's absolutely wrong because we are already looking at her face. Like, I'm like, we don't want to just look at her face and nothing else. The point is the total package, right? And for her, the way that she moves around stage and the reasons why people like her is because she's so adorable. And also she can do the little like hair flip. Like, it's a huge part of her identity. So I'm like, we're supposed to look at her hair. That's the whole point. And then they make sure to make her makeup this really gorgeous, like, Hollywood starlet-esque look that it's like you will
Very
be looking at
specific.
both. You have to.
And the bangs are beautiful.
The bangs are
They're
gorgeous.
so gorgeous. And I hate bangs. Like, I genuinely hate bangs.
Yeah.
They are like my least favorite thing in the world. I cut horrible bangs on myself in 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Never again, most likely. But she pulls them off. Like, some people really are meant to have them.
Yeah.
Zoe Deschanel is another one.
Yes.
Like, really pulls off
Zooey
the bangs.
Deschanel.
And it's like, some people, beautiful. On me, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's a matter of personal preference.
Yeah.
I want to move into a quick commercial break before our last segment. Hey guys, welcome back. We're moving into our last segment. This is the Community Corner, where you submit stories and or questions and we give you advice. All right, Jordi, you have anything this week?
Yes, I got a couple questions from the masses. First one I saw was, what do you do if the person you're seeing doesn't want a relationship but you do?
Run.
Okay, see, I'm glad you said it, because I feel like every time we get questions like this, I'm the one that's like, dump him.
Because, okay, like, I've been there, done that, girl. I've literally been there, done that twice with the same person. Not good. I made this mistake freshman year with someone, then went back to the same person junior year, and also made that mistake again. That they did not want a relationship either time. And I got my heart broken twice by the same person. So, highly do not recommend. You know what? Like, I'm done with playing games in any capacity, whether it's friendship or relationship-wise or family-wise. Take someone as they say they are. Take them at face value.
Yeah.
If someone is this great, big, dark, complex puzzle that you have to, like, unravel to get to the bottom of, it's not a Tootsie Pop. You're not going to get to the middle and something good's going to be there. Like, take it at face value. If there's a super hard outer shell, you're not getting to the good stuff. You're not.
That was a good metaphor. I don't even think that somebody not looking for a relationship makes them an inherently bad person or says anything negative about their personality. I do think that you'll save yourself a lot of heartbreak if you can just either end it and be like, clearly we're not looking for the same thing, or kind of check in and be like, hey, I know you said this. I'm feeling like this. I just wanted to check in and see if what you said is still true on your end, because for me, things have changed, or I've been thinking this. Because sometimes it will have changed. Some people are pretty adamant about what they want, and I also think that's important as well. But sometimes you meet somebody and you change your mind, and I think that's fine. So yeah, if you're the kind of person who's just feeling like you want more than they said they could give you, I would at least check in and be like, hey, I know you said this, but I just wanted to be absolutely clear on this, that that's still the agreement. And if that's not for you, then move on.
Yeah, and I think there's something, like, to be said about the value in companionship without labels, but I do think past a certain point, it can get complicated. Someone always catches feelings. It probably won't last in a casual way, in a good way that's healthy, for more than a few months. So, like, you know, I think you kind of have to make a tough decision on that, no matter who it is or what the situation is, within, like, at the very most 6 months it should be. I think some people do it for a lot longer.
6 months
and
is
it gets
long
messier.
Time.
Well, 6 months is a long time. I was being very gracious with the time period. But, you know, it's complicated. I do also think that not necessarily looking for a relationship is okay, but being open to one. So if the person is open to one, but maybe they went through a breakup recently, or they're not sure what they want, like, maybe hang in there and see if you naturally develop into something. But I also wouldn't, I don't think I would hang in there too long if they're really not sure.
Agreed.
And I also think I've been at the other end of the situation where I was the one being like, okay, I'm not emotionally available right now. I don't really want anything. But then I realized, like, okay, maybe I'll make an exception this time. And I didn't regret it, because it was, like, the right time and the right person. So I think the circumstances matter also.
Most definitely.
Okay, here's another interesting question. Ooh, we're getting spicy this week. I hope you guys are okay. How do you break up with someone?
Imagine this is the
Write them a
person who
dramatic Dear
had the
John
last
letter.
question. It's like the person that first person was seeing. Oh my
Oh my
god. No, I
god.
highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Oh
Write
my
them a
god,
letter. No,
that'd
I'm
be
kidding.
so
That's
bad.
toxic.
Write them a letter. Write them a post-it. If anyone's seen Sex in the City, write them a post-it.
Oh my god, no. So I think genuinely face-to-face conversation, 100% best tactic, always. If you can't do that, FaceTime. Don't do it over text. Don't do it over a phone call. Don't do it over Snapchat. Don't do it through a friend. I'm just saying,
Who's
like, don't do it through a little picture. I don't know. I am just giving people
you're
a hard
different kind of evil if you're breaking up with someone over Snapchat. Imagine somebody posting it on their story. You're evil. You're evil.
Imagine.
Oh my god.
I can't.
No. Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Be honest with yourself. Be honest with them.
Please. That's the best. Yeah. And don't let it drag on either. If you know, well, now
you can say my name next time.
Look, Jasmine. Now look. Nobody's perfect. And also, we might have to cut that out.
Perhaps.
Nobody's perfect, but I would say try your best not to lead anyone on. I do think that there's reasons why people might end up leading somebody on, because you're not sure, or you're still weighing your options on what would be a good idea for you, what makes sense for your life, and things like that. And I think that's totally fair. And sometimes you don't want to necessarily voice that until you're sure of the decision that you're gonna make, because then instilling all of this like fear and anxiety in the person of like you might break up with them beforehand,
that's worse.
And yeah. I think I am definitely at fault for that, because I wanted to like, I'm the kind of person who wants to communicate honesty at all times and vulnerability, even if I'm not quite sure. And I think that's sometimes that has backfired and hit back in my face. But
yeah, that definitely has happened to me too. Like, that's actually why a situation was dragged out so long, because I expressed things when I probably shouldn't have, when there was like no feasible way to see the person like face to face, and it ended up just like prolonging the situation and making it ultimately a little bit more painful, I think. But also in a way it was less painful too, because we were able to process it together. If that's like really weird, and honestly the most emotionally mature interaction I've ever had in a relationship setting. Like, the fact that we were processing a breakup together is just kind of like sweet, but also
heartbreaking.
It was like it was putting the friendship first, at least the basis that we had as friends. And I think that's what softened the blow a little bit, but I do think the timing could have been better on my part.
I think, if you're somebody if you're feeling like you just need to break up with somebody, please do it in person, and please just be honest. And remember how much love you have for the person. And if you were still in love with them or still wanted to be with them, how you would want them to treat you in the process. Because it's rough. And I've only been through one breakup, really. But like, I think we were able to handle it with just like love and care and respect for each other for the most part. And I think if you could do that, that's for the best.
I think it was like the least messy, most like mutually respectful, mutually transparent, honest, supportive sort of breakup that it could have been, because there was so much respect there. But I also think, like, regardless of how the situation happens, it's going to hurt a lot. And you have to be really delicate about it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening this week. Thank you for enjoying our recap. Thank you for these wonderful questions. Hope you guys are doing okay. But we will see you again next week. Remember to keep it Jasmine.